Welcome to the After Spin. Additional comments from our panelists just available on our website. We want to ask, what do you wish you had said on last week's show but didn't? Doug Raymond, I'll ask you.
Well, there would just be no way I would have the time, but I wish I could have told the story because I saw some amazing things down in Florida this week. I was down there with another hat on helping promote a conservative Second Amendment movie called Amerigeddon, traveling around with Chuck Norris's son Mike. And as we were traveling around, we're in Florida right after the horrible situation in Orlando. And what we were seeing as when we were talking to people, and especially when we were going into gun stores and talking to people, people were lined up out the door buying ammunition. And it kind of dawned on me that the Second Amendment gun issue type of thing is getting to the point where it's like abortion. You're just not going to change anybody's mind. And as tragic as that was, all it did was reinforce one side that we need to do something, get rid of more guns, and it reinforced the other side as, you ain't get my guns. But I literally saw a lady that could have came out of Central Casting as mom next door who was buying 20 cases of 9mm ammunition. And it was just the strangest phenomena. But to me, nobody's mind is going to change on this. It's just reinforcing things.
Chris, what do you wish you had said on last week's show? And don't let it be about guns.
Well, we talked about the school construction bill and the proposal to let them lease some money that they use, or take money they use for operating and now use it for private school construction. There's two other points I wanted to make that I didn't have time to do. One is, we passed a lottery in North Carolina a long time ago, unfortunately, and part of the sales job for the lottery was it was going to build schools. This General Assembly, like General Assemblies before it's not unique to the folks currently in power, have taken that lottery money. This year they try to replace money for school custodians and other things. They've used it for early childhood. They've increased that amount. They've taken the rigid formula out. I have always thought if we have a lottery at all, and I wish we didn't, it ought to be all go into one pot. It ought to be for capital construction. It ought to be for school construction. That'd be one way to help. And the second point, if Robinson County can't build the schools, we live in a state where we're responsible for everybody in North Carolina, and we have done it before. We need to figure out some revolving fund. We need to borrow some money. We need to set up, dedicate some revenue, some of the surplus we have this year that's one-time money, and help Robinson County, because those kids they're North Carolina kids, and it is the state's responsibility to make sure they get a good education.
And it's just not a Robinson County
Well, that's
problem.
right.
All right, John, what do you wish you'd have said on last week's show?
Well, I did make reference to the fact that North Carolina, for the first 11 of the 12 months of the 2015-16 fiscal year, the general fund budget ran a $1.2 billion surplus. Now, the reason why lots of people may not have known that is kind of the point I want to make right now. We have a political structure in North Carolina that is vastly different than it was 10, 20 years ago. Many fewer reporters covering state government. One of the things that really struck me when I saw that number in an official government document that was published several days earlier was that, wait a minute, no one has reported this number? This would be in a previous, some years ago, there would have been so much coverage of the legislature's budget negotiations, there would have been almost a daily update, and there certainly would have been an update if a deficit or surplus had been estimated above $1 billion. There was no coverage of this whatsoever. I'm not criticizing the people currently in the media business to some extent. What I'm saying is we have depopulated newsrooms. And so if we're going to get the word out, obviously people should watch NC Spin. That's where you get all the important information. But if we're going to get the word out, we cannot rely on the traditional media sources anymore. They just don't have the hands on deck.
Well, they de-emphasize their coverage. I mean, I can remember growing up as a boy, the News and Observer had a full page every day with every committee meeting, what went on in the committee meeting, all the bills that were considered. You hardly even know they're in session
anymore. It's true, Tom, but they don't have the staffing to do that anyway. They don't have the revenue for it. They just don't.
Dennis, what do you wish you'd have said on last week's show?
Well, we did talk about the leasing of schools and how rural counties are having a difficult time funding the building of schools with bricks and mortar, and what the expense is of doing that and how they could lease and the problems with that. Here's an idea. What about us building virtual schools? Well, homeschooling is one of the fastest growing schools in the state and in the country, where we could try to devise technology where we could go into the homes of people and actually teach our children while they're at home. Might save us a lot of bricks and mortar. It might save a lot of money. It might be part of the solution to having no money in the rural areas.
Just don't get Chris started on for-profit virtual schools. Thanks for watching the After Spin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.